A wonderful afternoon to all. I welcome you to our Youth Business Caribbean weekly webinar series. My name is Agnella Joseph of the St. Lucia Youth Business Trust and your host for this week's series. I am joined here today by my colleague and co-host, Miss Jolene Robin of the Anguilla Youth Business Foundation. Okay, the Youth Business Caribbean team are also here with us. We have from Dominica, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Anguilla, Barbados, and of course, St. Lucia. A special welcome to our esteemed speakers, Dr. Ronia Foy-Connor, research practitioner of the tranquil island of Anguilla, and psychologist and counselor from the beautiful island of St. Lucia, Miss Kayla Lee. I warmly welcome you both and thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to be with us to speak on this week's topic. Throughout the last 3 months, protocols have been established and social distancing has become the new norm. This is all part of the response to the global pandemic, which has forced us to close our businesses, with authorities mandating that we stay home to stay healthy. As social beings, it has become extremely difficult to cope with this unexpected and unusual situation brought on by COVID-19. This prolonged isolation and limited activity, especially within our businesses, has significantly affected our well-being and mental health and contributed to an increase in our stress levels brought on by anxiety and fear of the unknown. The purpose of this series, Stress Less, will focus on dealing with mental health and coping with stress during a crisis. It's not just COVID-19, but any crisis at all which may come our way. And the aim is to offer guidance on how to deal with stress and maintain a good work-life balance. And now invite Mr. Robin to introduce our presenters. Can you unmute yourself, Robin?
Good afternoon all, sorry about that. Our first presenter, Dr. Ronia Foy-Connor, is a research practitioner in the fields of entrepreneurship development and social entrepreneurship as a form of community sustainability, and has conducted research in the United States, Caribbean, and East Africa, focused primarily on the unique needs of our youth and women-owned businesses. Currently, Dr. Foy-Connor serves as Director of the Gender Affairs Unit, Government of Anguilla, and also functions as the Deputy Chairperson and the Chair of the Mentorship Committee of the Anguilla Youth Business Foundation. She is also the owner of Living Water Counseling Center in Anguilla and serves as a member of Anguilla's Mental Health and Psychosocial Support MHPSS team. Dr. Foy-Connor holds a Bachelor of Science in Industrial and Labor Relations and a Master of Public Administration in Human Rights and Social Justice from Cornell University in New York. She also holds a Master of Social Work and a Doctor of Philosophy in International Social Work from Howard University in Washington, D.C. Our second presenter, Ms. Kayla Lee, is a St. Lucian/Canadian national who resettled in St. Lucia just over 5 years. Ms. Lay operated her own private practice, K-Lay Psychotherapy and Counseling, when she first moved to St. Lucia, but felt the desire to work more closely with students and community stakeholders and accepted a position as the school counselor at Sir Ira Simmons Secondary School in June 2015. Ms. Lay holds a Master of Arts degree in Counseling Psychology and completed a clinical internship in 2014 at Vanier Children's Institute in London, Canada, amassing over 750 hours of clinical supervised work with children and families. Ms. Lay specialized in working with children and adolescents, particularly those from troubled and disadvantaged backgrounds. Prior to obtaining a Master of Arts degree in 2014 from Yorkville University in New Brunswick, Canada, Ms. Lay obtained an honors Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology from Western University in 2011, and an honors of Masters of Art degree in law, crime and deviance and political science with a minor concentration in sociology in 2008 from the University of Toronto. Ms. Lay is a registered psychologist with the Allied Health Council of St. Lucia and also serves as a member of our Boys Matter Steering Committee, a project funded by the St. Lucia Development Fund, SSDF, with a mandate to assist 100 disadvantaged secondary school boys on the island. With a passion for bettering the lives of others and seeing positive change occur in the lives of children and families is what motivates her to do her best every day. Each speaker will be given 20 minutes for their presentation. Questions and answers can be placed in the chat and will be addressed during our question and answer segment. We're also live on Facebook, and I will now turn it over to Dr. Connor to begin her presentation. Dr. Connor.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone. Entrepreneurs, it's a pleasure to be with you. I am going to share a PowerPoint presentation, so just bear with me to get that up and running. And forgive my bandwidth if there's a little bit of a delay. We'll still make sure things are operating properly. Okay, so it's really my pleasure to speak with you today during this week's Youth Business Caribbean's webinar series titled Stress Less. I hope that that title alone, Stress Less, makes you want to take in a deep breath of success and exhale the mountain of any fears, worry, or trouble that may be going on right now. I'd like to thank the entire Youth Business Caribbean team, including Jonathan and Jolene, for organizing this important talk today for young entrepreneurs in our region. So let's delve in. What is mental health? I'm going to present to you here 3 aspects of it. First, it has to do with levels of psychological well-being. And as you see in the photo here, well-being can relate to your awareness of your stress levels, your personal resilience, your feelings of happiness, and having support systems in place. The second aspect, adjusting with the demands of life. In COVID-19, this era that we're in now, it's a perfect example for us, as it's part of the reason that we're even having this conversation today. COVID-19 has brought upon us huge adjustments that needed to be made to daily life. Between the shutting down of our businesses, social distancing measures, and feelings of anxiety. There's anxiety around catching the virus, what will happen if a family member gets sick, and so many considerations. So major adjustments have to be made. Your ability to adjust to life's demands, this is a gauge of your current state of mental health. Okay, and the third aspect of mental health that I'd like to highlight. Stable mental health is about achieving and maintaining a state of wellness. So wellness can be defined in many ways, but in my personal counseling and coaching sessions with young entrepreneurs, we look at wellness as holistic health. So what it is a deep connection between mind, body, and soul. It's a oneness of thought and action. So the idea is what you think and do is what you become. So let's ask this question. Why is mental health a concern for entrepreneurs? Well, thankfully, there's a handful of research studies that focus on entrepreneurs and mental health. It's an interesting topic, one, because of the nature of an entrepreneur, which you all should be aware of. It's the traits and the characteristics that define who we are and what we do. So please tell me if you'd agree that an entrepreneur is someone who's optimistic and confident by nature. Just think about that. Is that something you would agree with? We work long hours. We arguably handle more responsibilities than your average person. We constantly live in a space of uncertainty. And we tend to invest more of ourselves physically, emotionally, and financially. As an entrepreneur, or as I'm saying here, as an amazing entrepreneur, you're simultaneously the most valuable player of the team and you're the player on the bench. You are the construction crew and you're the demolition crew. In the movie of your life, not only are you the writer, producer, director, the lead actor, you're also the understudy and that extra, that person off in the corner of the screen that no one even notices. You are the extra. All of these things together in the greatest film produced and still in production. Now let's think about that for a second. That is certainly a lot of pressure for one person or even a team of entrepreneurs. Therefore, your personal well-being, your mental health that is critical. I'd like to delve in a little bit deeper. There was a 2015 study conducted by Professor Michael Freeman of the University of California. And in that study, he notes, and I quote, "Entrepreneurs create the vast majority of new jobs. They pull economies out of recessions, which we know will be very important for us in post-COVID-19 era. And they introduce useful products and services to create prosperity. Therefore, it behooves us to understand the cognitive, the affective, and the behavioral strengths and vulnerabilities of entrepreneurs." In short, if I may paraphrase what Professor Freeman is quoting, he's pretty much saying that entrepreneurs impact all of society. And if we are not okay, then it is certainly a big deal. Currently, listen to this please, currently, 49% of entrepreneurs have one or more mental health concerns. The most common concerns include anxiety, which is a feeling of overwhelming stress, burnout, chronic energy depletion and exhaustion, depression, persistent feelings of sadness, suicidal ideation, which means that you're thinking about death or dying, and or substance abuse, the misuse of alcohol and drugs, which affects your daily life. According to the World Economic Forum, entrepreneurs are 8% of the total population, global population. That seems like a small percentage, only 8%. But that equates to roughly 582 million people globally. So think about that, 582 million people that are entrepreneurs globally, and 49%, almost half, will experience one or more of the mental health concerns listed there on the slide within their lifetimes. So it's critically important for each of us to strive to operate in a state of optimum emotional and relational health. Quickly, I'd like you to consider some of the signs of mental health concerns. Okay, you can see it listed there. Just a bit of a checklist that you can do on your own time. See if you've experienced any of these feelings, if you're feeling any of them during this COVID-19 pandemic. And be on the lookout for losing your optimism, feeling sad, anxious, or numb more often than usual. If you see any changes in your eating habits or your sleep schedule, or if you feel unable to concentrate or make decisions. If anyone is contemplating or thinking about suicide, this is certainly something that needs to be addressed and you need to get support for. And last, look at alcohol or drug use. If it's increasing, is it associated with deeper cravings? These are all concerns over mental health that specifically affect entrepreneurs, in addition to our total population. So if you're experiencing any of these concerns, please seek out the relevant resources that will offer you sound support. I'm sure throughout this webinar, we'll be able to share the information for you for your particular island. I'll let you know now that in Anguilla, you can contact our mental health and psychosocial support hotline, specifically for COVID-19 and its challenges. And you'll see that number there below, 264-584-0406. You can also reach out to us on Facebook at the Ministry of Social Development Anguilla, or MSD, Anguilla for short, and visit our website, which tackles all things COVID-19. That's beatcovid19.ai. So moving along, we all know that entrepreneurs take great risks and operate in unsure environments. And this COVID-19 pandemic is just another challenge that we'll have to overcome. And I'm pretty confident that we will, especially as entrepreneurs, because we are innovators, we are go-getters. We look at a problem and we want to be able to solve it, to find the best solution. And that's what we're going to have to do during this post-COVID-19 period. So I'd like to encourage you, each one of you, to take just 5 steps today towards stable mental health by using your energy force. Use these proven abilities to create and innovate. Now, the definition of the word force is to drive or propel against resistance. I encourage you during this time to use your force. That's F-O-R-C-E. Use your force toward wholeness. And let me briefly tell you what this is. F. F is find your sticking ground. Every one of us has something that motivates us or that keeps us striving on a daily basis. When we feel tired, if we're fed up, overwhelmed, or discouraged by something, there is something that keeps you going forward. Whatever you tell yourself, this is your sticking ground. Find yourself, find the sticking ground, and glue yourself to it. O. O is for open up. Whether good, bad, or great, talk to a trusted friend or a mentor about your thoughts and your feelings during this pandemic. Utilize the peer networks and other networking groups, such as this one right here, and other youth business resources to connect with those individuals who are facing similar challenges as you are. Open up. The R in force is for run your own race. You know, something that's been interesting during the COVID-19 pandemic is some people are experiencing new creative spaces. You're having renewed energy, you're feeling motivated, you want to continue your business venture or even write up a new business plan. And that's fine, that's great even. But we have to be aware that not everybody is in that space. While some people are receiving renewed motivation and fervor for their work, there are others who need to take this time to just pause, to be in preparation for what's next, but to be still in this current moment. I like to say that they're preparing for a reset. You know, when things get back to a new sense of normal, you know, it's a reset. They're thinking of new business ideas. You know, what's something that I'll do now? I was speaking with a young entrepreneur yesterday, and he mentioned that he had some business ideas that he was looking to really get going. He was looking into ordering some products, but now with COVID-19, he shifted gears. He now sees that maybe there's another area that he can go into. I don't want to give away his business idea, but it had to do with sanitation and cleaning, you know, so that, I mean, that would be a perfect shift. That's where we are now. So as entrepreneurs, we know how to make that shift. Now, force, the C. The C in force is to count the seemingly small successes, also known as moving the goalposts. You have an ultimate business goal, but don't wait to celebrate when you hit that major mark. The idea is that you must celebrate the seemingly small and minor steps along the path toward fulfilling your objectives. I like to say that we must remember that each drop of water is valuable in order to fill the glass. If you're thirsty, you take every drop you can get. So it's the same thing. Count the small successes. Don't wait until you get to the finish line. And last, the E in force, engage in self-care. Now, self-care leads to greater productivity, and I encourage you not to neglect it. It's something that we tend to neglect first when you're busy, when your mind is occupied thinking about how you'll make ends meet. Yes, we tend to neglect it, but it's really the core of who you are, and it's the core of what'll keep you mentally stable during this time. So I recommend 30 minutes per day for self-care. This can include exercising, enjoying your favorite hobby, however much you can, you know, if you're in quarantine or you're isolated or, you know, on lockdown, however much you can, enjoy your favorite hobby. Do some deep breathing. I'm aware that you had a webinar not too long ago where you practiced some of the deep breathing. And that's something that should be done on a daily basis. Also practice gratitude. Be thankful for where you are and what you have. And last, treat yourself to reflective rest. And that's where you're resting, but you're really thinking about all of the things that are going well in your life, where you like to move forward, and being in the present moment and being grateful for where you are. So as I conclude, I'm sure that you've heard the saying that with success, no pain, no gain. I'd like to challenge that notion today, and I want us to redefine success. It is not just a return on investment. It's not just about profit or status, but success is also defined in terms of our emotional and physical well-being. If you can reach a state of holistic mental health, then you've reached levels of success that many only dream of. Please continue to reach for wholeness. I thank you, stay well, and I'm happy to answer any questions at the conclusion of our webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Connor. We will now ask Ms. Lay to begin her presentation. Ms. Lay.
Good afternoon. I'm very excited to be here with you today to discuss stress relief and some of the ways that we can manage our stress. I think Dr. Connor and I were sort of on the same wavelength there because she touched on a lot of the concepts I think that are very important for an entrepreneur and small business owner. So I basically want to sort of take a different spin on things. I want to talk mainly about ways that you can reduce stress and how you can practice some of those self-care tips in your daily life. So I'm going to also share a presentation. Just give me a minute to get that up. And then we can talk about how you can practice some of these things on your own to try to reduce your stress. Okay, so at various points during the presentation, I'll ask you just to do some personal self-reflection. If you'd like to add a comment in the comment box, you can, just so that other people can see that, you know, they aren't alone in this. But for the most part, I want you to just think of those things on your own so that we can begin to kind of take stock of where you are and what's going on with you. Okay, perfect. So just starting with some of the basics. What is stress? Stress can come from various sources. So from your environment, your body, your thoughts, or from external events, much like the crisis we're experiencing. COVID-19 has brought about a lot of change for a lot of people. Some of you may still be in quarantine. You know, the situation is different for every island. But basically, we can agree that it's not the norm. You're not carrying out your normal routine. And so because of that, this can add a lot of stress to an already stressful life. As an entrepreneur, you are probably used to dealing with, you know, stressful situations and situations that bring about a lot of change on a day-to-day. And with that, you can experience stressors. So typically, we see that our body reacts to stress from a physical, mental, and emotional standpoint. I've put up some of the ways we respond to stress, but I want to emphasize that it'll be different for every person. So not everybody is going to feel the same way when they are stressed out, and not everybody is going to experience the same stressors. So you can see that they're grouped into 4 categories: body, mind, behavior, and emotions. And even within each of these, there's a lot of variance. So I think that exemplifies the fact that when stress hits us, it goes along different paths. So for one person, it could be a completely different experience, even for the same stressor. Right? So I think the level of stress, it's important to note that we experience will also determine how we handle stress. So I want to talk a little bit about that. So with a low level of stress, acute stress, short-term stress, it can actually be somewhat functional. So it can be helpful for us. It can boost our productivity. It can increase our creativity, and it can strengthen our short-term immunity, all which are helpful things for us. But on the flip side, a high level of stress can actually be quite detrimental. So it can take a toll on our bodies, us physically, emotionally. It can create some serious health problems if it lasts long term. It can weaken our immune system. And consequently, that can contribute to a shorter lifespan overall. So long-term or high levels of stress are definitely a negative thing that we want to try our best to sort of mitigate or see how we can reduce that feeling. Right? So basically how you respond to stress, I was saying, is sort of an individual thing, but it really depends on the coping strategies and mechanism that you employ to try to reduce your stress. Right? So for different people, you know, they utilize different practices. So maybe they try to approach the day with a positive mindset. As Dr. Connor was talking about, their breathing exercises, meditation, exercise activities that you can do. But all of these things will help you to sort of control your stress level and basically help you to keep it at bay as much as possible. Even though, as I said, we'll all experience some levels of stress in our day-to-day lives. So I want to use COVID-19 sort of as an example. There are some people who are, you know, finding the time to be productive, doing the things that they like. Maybe they have a change in routine, so they have more time to practice hobbies, self-care, exercise, you know, eat right. All of the things that we maybe should be doing on a day-to-day, but especially as entrepreneurs, we don't always have the time. I think most of us know that we should be doing these things. But when we have the influx of, you know, for some of us, you have a regular day job as well as your small business. You have families, and there are all sorts of other aspects of your life. It becomes a lot. So you don't always practice these things. But these are examples of positive coping strategies, which also act as protective factors. So things that can help you to cope with those stressors when they arise. On the flip side, there are some people that we see are exhibiting high levels of worry, which is normal in many of these situations. But at the same time, if you are boggled down by worry and consumed by worry, it's hard for you to be functional and productive and to take those positive steps that you need to sort of mitigate that stress. You know, we see a lot of people exhibiting self-doubt and an increase in the destructive behaviors. So things like excessive drinking, smoking, drug use, and overeating, which will basically all create more negativity or make us feel more stressed. So they are seen as risk factors, and they are more likely to put us in a situation where we have difficulty managing our stress. So I wanted to, before we get into some of the things that you can do to mitigate your stress, just talk about two of my favorite quotes when it comes to worrying or stress management. So the first one is, worry less, do more, emerge positive. So what that means to me is that, you know, worry is something that it's natural. We will worry, especially given the current situation or other crises. You know, there are all sorts of different crisis situations. But I think the more we worry, the less we're able to do things to sort of circumvent those situations. So if we remind ourselves that worrying actually doesn't help, it doesn't improve the situation, it doesn't help us to be more productive, more creative. So instead, if we do more, if we take actions to help ourselves, to help our business, we are more likely to emerge more positively and more successfully in our business. And the second one is, worrying will never change the outcome. So for me, that's a reminder that yes, you can spend time worrying, and you know you'll always do that in some regard. But if you are overcome by worry, and if you spend a lot of time doing that, what you're not doing is finding solutions or finding positive ways to circumvent that situation or to make things better. So those are just two reminders that I wanted to touch on before we continue. So how does stress impact you? As I've mentioned, stress is really a personal thing. So we will all experience stressors differently. We'll experience the symptoms differently. So it's important for you to do some personal reflection and just to think about how stress actually impacts you. Because we're talking about this in the scope of, you know, Youth Business Caribbean, I want to start off by focusing on you in your business environment, your business mindset. So let's just take a couple of seconds to reflect on these questions. If you'd like, you can pop your answers into the comments, as I mentioned, or you can just think to yourself and see sort of how these things reflect with you. So the first question, how does stress impact you in your business life? What are your main stress triggers? So, you know, what are the things that if you see or hear or, you know, something happens, what is it that brings about that stress? For some people, it could be receiving a bill in the mail or a phone call from a certain person or a certain time of year that, you know, every year it typically brings about stress. What is it that you find are your stress triggers? And what do you presently do to counteract that stress that arises in the course of your business day and life? So again, the reason I ask is that for everybody, it will be different. But if we're not cognizant, if we're not mindful of these things, we can't start to try to mitigate or bring about stress relief. We have to know what we're currently doing. So it's important to do that kind of reflection just for you to understand what exactly is going on with you, because as I said, it'll be a personal reflection for everybody. It will be different depending on your situation, how your business is doing, what type of business you have, what else you have going on in your life, and so on. Okay, so the main question I want to sort of present or ask is, how can you as an entrepreneur or a small business owner have a successful business and be as stress-free as possible? Now, this question applies not only during the current crisis or any other crisis, but just in general. So I want to basically touch on 5 main tips for reducing stress as a small business owner. Of course, there are many that I can give you, but I think these are some of the most important ones and most relevant given our current situation. So the first is to take short breaks. As an entrepreneur, I'm sure that you've delved hours and hours into your business, trying to be successful, planning, revising, and doing all of the things that you have to do to make it run. As Dr. Connor mentioned, you're sort of the MVP, you're the player, you're everybody to your business. But if you aren't taking short breaks, you're constantly consumed in thinking about the business, which means that you're not thinking as much about other things or about yourself and your well-being. So those breaks are important. in order for you to be successful in your business. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later. Number 2 is to set boundaries. So it's important to establish clear lines between work, home, spirituality, health, and so on, and all the other aspects of your life. Because again, you are your business. So if you aren't doing well, it's likely that your business won't do well. So you have to remember to establish those clear lines so that there's a division. Number 3 is to network and communicate. So much like you're here participating in this webinar, it's important for you to collaborate with others, for you to know that you're not alone in how you're feeling and that everybody goes through stressful periods. It's also a really great way to get advice, to get solutions, and just to share with others who are maybe knowledgeable in various fields and can provide you with that type of support. It's also a good way to have company, especially as we've all been locked down and, you know, most of us have been home. So it's really great to reach out to people using these various formats. Number 4 is to seek help. So Dr. Connor touched on the fact that in every island, there are agencies set up to support you. And I think it's important that we're all knowledgeable, so I can also share the information for St. Lucia afterwards. But even if it isn't a mental health professional or a counselor, seek help from a business coach, from a colleague, from other people who, you know, may be knowledgeable about your business or even about mental health, well-being, wellness, and so on. You know, some of us can be, as entrepreneurs, we do a lot of things on our own. But it's important to get help, especially in light of the current situation. And it's important to know when you need help and to know that it's not a bad thing to ask for help. And number 5 is practice self-care. So this one I think is vitally important, especially as entrepreneurs, because as I said, you are your business. So if you aren't doing well, your business isn't going to likely do well. So I want to do another short personal reflection and just to have you think of some of these questions. We talked mainly before about what you can do for your business, but now what can you do for yourself? So what causes you stress in your personal life? Okay, number 2, how have you overcome stressful situations in the past? Knowing how you dealt with situations in the past can be very helpful for you for future situations. And 3, what do you think you can do to help yourself feel less stressed? So a lot of the time when I ask that questions to my clients or even my students, they tell me they don't know. I'm just worried, I'm concerned, this is what's going on with me. But they haven't given much thought to the things that they can do on their own to help themselves. So I basically just want to highlight that stress is personal and so is stress relief. I can give you a whole range of tips and ideas, but what works for me might not work for you, and what works for other people might not work for you. So it's important for you to take the time to kind of see what self-care ideas and strategies help you to reduce your stress. So I think that's what I wanted to kind of highlight in today's presentation. I want you to start to think, even after we end today, about what you can do to mitigate your stress during this crisis and at future points in your life. Because as I said, stressful situations will always arise, but it's sort of up to you to know what will work for you. So self-care is the practice of taking an active role in protecting one's well-being and happiness, particularly in times of stress. Although I think as entrepreneurs, we are typically always stressed. So it's important, as Dr. Connor mentioned, to do a little something every day. So there are various types of self-care, physical, emotional, social. I put up this slide so you can maybe see some of the different aspects. But for you, what will work, again, I said, is a personal thing. So whether it is that you take extra naps, that you exercise, that you eat better, that you change your space, you play music, that's something that you will have to explore and take the time to look into. I do have some top tips for what I think are most beneficial during this period. So I'll touch on those briefly. So a sleep routine. I think as entrepreneurs, we're used to maybe not getting as much sleep as we should. It's recommended about 7 to 8 hours for adults. But even if you're not getting that, try to take time for things like meditation, relaxation activities, deep breathing, yoga, anything that will relax you and calm you. Eat better. So especially now, as we are working to boost our immune systems, getting our fruits and vegetables, fiber, omega-3 fatty foods are vitally important to your health and to your well-being. Exercise. This is one that I think that COVID has sort of brought about a change. Many of us are used to going to the gym, to being outdoors, but there are a lot of things that you can do even within your own environment. So body weight activities, there are a lot of videos online. Try and see what you can do. 3 minutes or so a day, 5 days a week. Get back into a hobby. So this is one that we may not always have time for in our day-to-day, but especially now, see that what you can do to make yourself happy in the day. So again, it's going to be something personal. Consider your environment. So I mentioned use of smell, colors, changing your mood, just cleaning your space, because that has a lot to do with how you're feeling. And finally, zone out for a bit. So take time to just detach completely sometimes, whether that be from people, from social media. Sometimes it's good to just do nothing and to be by yourself. Now, these are all great as self-care methods and things that we can do. But if you're feeling overwhelmed in the moment, what can you do to try to help reduce your stress and keep you calm and so on? So the first is called progressive muscle relaxation. So it's great for things like tension relief. It's great for us to be mindful of what's going on in our bodies and maybe where we're keeping sources of stress. So I'll just do a brief demonstration. We don't have much time, so I'm not going to do the full, but you can always look into this afterwards and see how you can practice it on your own. So I want everybody just to follow along with me briefly. So I want you to relax your entire body. Now, starting with your feet, I want you to tense your feet while taking a slow, deep breath in through your nose. You're going to hold for 5 seconds. And then as you breathe out through your mouth, I want you to release your feet. I then want you to move up and do the same thing with your legs. So you're going to tense your legs while holding your breath. And then you're going to release through your mouth and release your legs. You would then continue and do that with various parts of your body. So your stomach, your shoulders, your neck, your head. And what that does is it isolates parts of your body. You feel them tense and then you feel them release, which can be very helpful for you just to sort of get some tension relief and to calm yourself down. The second activity is a 4-7-8 breathing activity. So I'd ask you to lay or sit with one hand on your chest and one on your belly. You're going to start by taking a slow, deep breath in, counting to 4 as you breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll then hold your breath mentally for 7 seconds. And then you're going to release for 8 seconds and breathe out through your mouth. Now what this does is reminds us to be conscious about our breathing, and that's something that we don't always do. But this will help you to try to it'll reduce your heart rate, it'll keep you calm, and it's a great way to bring about a state of relaxation, whether it's before you meditate, think, you do work. So as I close, I just want to leave you with the final reflection. So what if everything that you're going through right now is preparing you for what you asked for? So your business goals, your success. Successful businesses have done so because they can withstand this type of pressure. So how can you use this experience to benefit or safeguard your business for future crisis periods? That can be done by changing your mindset in a way and how you think about stress. So I'll leave you with this last slide before I end, just to sort of think of how you can change your mindset and how you perceive stress. Okay, and thank you very much. That brings me to the end of my presentation.
Thank you
you,
so much.
Ms.
Thank
Lee.
you so much, Dr. Connor and Miss Lee. That was really, really two very informative and educational presentations. And I am sure that other persons on this panel and the participants are very enlightened, because I did the exercise that you requested a few, and this felt so good. I'm agreeing with Mindy, that felt really amazing, you know. I do that alone. I do that at home, but then even doing it right now is just giving you this time to just regroup and refocus. So we have a few questions coming in from our entrepreneurs. I think Isaiah presented a question that Dr. Connor, addressed. Yes, Isaiah was asking, how do you motivate your team during this time, and how do you help them during this stressful moment? Okay, so Dr. Connor, you want to take a go?
Sure. Yes, I just quickly sent a message to Isaiah, but 3 key points. How do you motivate your team? The first one I would say is communication. You have to maintain communication. If you can keep a regular schedule, if you used to have team meetings weekly, keep that schedule. You may even want to speak 2 times a week now if you can, just to show that you're there to support one another. The second, it goes off of that. Availability. So Isaiah, you can be available for your team. If they need to speak, if they have any concerns, if there's anything that needs to be addressed, just let them know you're available. You're willing to talk with them, to work with them. And you know, we're all in this together. So we want to figure out how we can make it work for all of us. The third point, I think you can consider where your business currently is in terms of operations. So what advantages do you have? Are you a virtual-based business? Are you online? If so, it's a great opportunity, if everyone is feeling mentally sound enough to do that, to consider how you can branch out online. How can you branch out in a new way? What are some things you can offer your clients or even your team members during this pandemic? You know, how do we stay relevant? How do we stay engaged? How can we stay active? That'll be one of the best ways to engage your team, and also to keep your mental health intact.
Okay, awesome. Yes, so Ms. Lee, one of my clients, she presented a question. She's not very versed in the English language, but she understands it clearly. So I will present that question on her behalf. She's saying that she's feeling hopeless as a startup, because she was just on the verge of starting up a business when COVID-19 reared its ugly head. So right now she's saying that the government here in St. Lucia is trying to make the decision to open up the borders, and she's worried about her safety. And as much as her business caters to the tourism sector, that should be a good thing for her. But she's so worried, afraid, and is experiencing some mixed emotions. What advice can you give her? She's asking for some advice to restart the process, or to take her business to a next step.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me to answer the question. I think many of us have those mixed feelings. You know, we're hearing a lot of information that COVID is still a risk and it's still out there, but at the same time, we have to, we have to get back to life. We can't stay indoors and be shut down forever, but I can appreciate for her, her concerns that she'd be working with tourists who are coming in, and especially if it's tourists coming from countries where the rates are very high. In St. Lucia, we have been lucky to have had a low transmission rate. But for some of the other countries, they haven't been so fortunate. So I can understand for her, her mixed emotions. And I think just the fact that she has done that reflection and she's cognizant of how she's feeling is a good thing. It's a good start, as I said, when you're dealing with stress and stress management, to do some personal reflection and to think of where you are. But I want to encourage her that she's not alone in how she feels. Many of us feel that way. And it would be good for her maybe to speak to other people in her industry or even other small business owners about how she feels, so that she can see she isn't alone and it's not just her. At the same time, it seems at least as if in St. Lucia, there is a protocol established for how to interact with tourists, with people on a day-to-day that she might see. So again, reading things like that and just arming herself with that information may be helpful for her to try to mitigate some of those concerns. As I mentioned, we'll always feel some degree of stress, some degree of worry, but just being mindful of these things and maybe practicing some of the self-care tips can help her to reduce those fears. One thing I want to encourage her to do is, as much as she may feel hopeless, know that this won't be how things will be forever. So things will change, and to just be positive. So again, with my last slide, try to change her mindset and look at it as a way for her to maybe adapt her business and her protocols and how she interacts with people, and to see what she can do to maybe change some of those practices to increase the level of safety and to reduce her fears. So Dr. Connor mentioned that now is maybe a good time to see what you can do as a business to try to put into practice some things that will arm you for future safety. So she mentioned, is it that you can maybe operate online in some fashion? Are there little adaptations you can make in your day-to-day that will maybe reduce the contact with other people? So for her to just try to use this as a productive, a creative period to brainstorm and see what she can do, rather than letting herself become overwhelmed or overcome with those worries.
Okay, awesome. I'm sure this gave her some more, some additional information as to how to proceed. Okay, we have a question coming in from Kriya. Kriya is asking, how can she zone off when both her business and work and part-time job is now, and she's now at home? So any one of you could approach this question. Dr. Connor, you want to do this?
Sure, I can jump in here. I think this is the million-dollar question, and it is because it's that work-life balance, again, that we've known about for so long, but we've never had to address it in this particular format. We've never had to be mandated as a global community to be at home, which means that now you have, yes, your work happening at home, but if you're a parent, you have children as well. If you are a caretaker, maybe you have older people that you're watching as well. In addition to what we both talked about, self-care. So really the question is, how do I manage all of this? The best answer I can give you is that you have to compartmentalize as much as possible. So if okay, I have my entrepreneurial work, I'm gonna get this done between 8 a.m. and I don't know, say 10 a.m., okay? If your part-time job has a specific schedule, then that'll be taken care of from 1 p.m. until 7 p.m. or whatever the timing is. We really need to be disciplined to the extent possible, knowing that we still have to be gentle with ourselves. This is something new. If we need to take a break for deep breathing, take a break for deep breathing. But we still have to maintain a balance by having a schedule, but being flexible. So it's that double-edged sword, but that's the only way to really get it done. So that's what I would offer to Kriya.
Okay, thank you so much. Before we go on to the other question, another question that we have here, is just a personal observation. You find that when you deeply stressed or you're depressed, none of this advice works because you're so overwhelmed that your mind is all over the place. How can you focus to put yourself back in line, in alignment with, you know, with life and everything that's going on around you?
I
Dr.
want to
Khan?
quickly jump in there.
Yes,
That's
go ahead.
okay.
Yeah.
I think that's the point where you realize you need additional support, that you cannot do it on your own. You cannot try to do it on your own. There are counselors available. There are psychologists. Now we have so many hotlines in our individual regions for mental health, for psychosocial support. The key there is that you have to use the resources. You have to call someone. You have to reach out. I know sometimes there's even a stigma around mental health, but it's those who don't push forward and get out of that. Don't worry about the stigma. Don't worry about who's going to talk about you, who's going to, who's going to give out information. These providers know to be confidential. We're here for you. We're here to make you better, to help you be better. So don't neglect that support.
I agree.
I believe that's what Kaylee,
yeah.
you're going to say that too.
Yeah.
I felt that.
The words out of my mouth.
I'm agreeing with you there, but sometimes it can be so difficult to get out of that zone, get out of this, or to reach out, because all you want to do is to sleep or just binge or eat, that's all you want to do. But then you just reiterated that you need to reach out to somebody because there is support out there. Okay, thank you so much. We have another question here, and this one directed to Miss Lay. Mindy is asking, how important is it in balancing personal life and professional life in managing stress?
I can tell you that that is something, as a counselor and as a psychologist, I deal with often. I have people who come to me that are overwhelmed in one area, and what they haven't established is a work-life balance. And even in addition to work and life, there are so many other aspects of your life. As I mentioned, there's your physical well-being, your spirituality, kids, family. There are so many aspects that you have to look at. Now, the issue is, if you don't find a balance, you will become overwhelmed in one of those areas, and it will lead to negative effects. What I find is, if you spend all of your time focusing on work, other areas lag, and that will eventually catch up with you, and that's where you start to feel overwhelmed, and it takes over you essentially. So I think it's very important to try to find that balance, and I think that starts with doing that personal reflection. So taking stock of what you're doing in different aspects of your life to stay healthy. As I said, from a day-to-day perspective, many of us get consumed with one aspect. I know for myself as a school counselor, I'm often boggled down with school, let alone to come home and have to cook a healthy meal, to exercise, to do other things. But you are your business. So if you're not doing those things, eventually you will break down, and so will your business. So I think this is a very good reminder for small business owners, for entrepreneurs, to take care of yourself as well. Your business is a reflection of you, and it depends on you. So if you aren't taking that time to create that balance and to take care of these other domains, eventually something will fall. And whether that's your business or yourself, either way, that's not a good thing. Okay?
Thank you so much, Mr. Lee. Kennedy is asking a question, but I think we've addressed this question is, how do someone who has an upcoming business cope with the stress? You want to shed some more light on this for him? Mr. Lee?
So I think we captured some aspects of that throughout the presentation, but essentially, Kennedy, finding what works for you in terms of self-care. So I mentioned that there were various domains and various areas of self-care, but what works for one person won't work for someone else. So I think especially if you're at home during this time, just taking time out from your day, whether that's half an hour or an hour, to try different things. So whether it's a new hobby, cooking, a different exercise routine, you will see what works for you, because you will feel the difference in your body. You'll feel the tension leaving, you'll feel yourself smile and feel happy. It's really a personal thing. It could be, for some people, it's sitting and watching series on Netflix. Again, because you don't get to do that all the time. So again, it's a personal thing. But as I said, stress is something that will, especially for entrepreneurs, it will come up all of the time. But you don't want it to get to a high level of stress or a chronic level of stress before you figure out how to bring some stress relief. So again, just experimenting with some of those self-care strategies, the deep breathing, mindfulness techniques will go a long way towards helping you establish a personal routine.
Okay, thank you so much. I am sure our entrepreneurs are well informed. And do you have any? I have one more question. Just one short, we have like we discussed earlier. You discussed earlier that the stress can be, people handle stress differently, but in keeping in touch with your clients, during that time your relationship can be severed. How can you keep in touch with your clients in ensuring that your business stays alive while you go through that that stress period? Dr. Misole? And you can give us your final thoughts thereafter.
So I think Dr. Connor touched on this as well briefly when she answered one of the earlier questions. But again, we're home, things are different, our routines have changed, but at the same time, we can always keep that communication going. Now, you may not be feeling your best and you may not feel able to communicate as you normally would, but there are still things you can do to keep your customers assured that you will be there for them when things reopen. So whether that's a message on social media, whether that's an email blast to your clients, whether it's engaging other people within your business who are feeling better able to communicate, to put out those messages. I've seen a lot of businesses online doing little videos or sharing with their customers, we'll be back soon. Just keeping those lines of communication open how you can to assure them that even though you're not present and functioning now, you will be at some point and you're still interested in them and you still care about them. A lot of the time when we're trapped inside, that creates that sense of social isolation. But it's good that we have the internet and we have these social media platforms and email and so on for us to feel connected, just like we are today. We're in this webinar and I see people asking questions and communicating, and that's a great way for you to work on your business without physically being present and doing things. You're still taking those steps to better your business and to be successful by reaching out and engaging in platforms such as this. So to just do the same.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Connor, any final thoughts?
Yes, I would also like to add that as an entrepreneur, you may be thinking, well, you provide a particular product or service, and maybe during this pandemic, you haven't been able to provide it or execute it to the level that you hoped for. But something that you need to remember, especially as an entrepreneur, is that many times, whatever the business is that you have, clients are with you. You have customers because yes, maybe they like your product or they appreciate your service. But especially if you're a small business, it's because of you. It's because of who you are, what you bring to the table, how you interact with them, how you make them feel. We tend to forget that sometimes. It's your personality. So throughout this entire pandemic, if you can let that still shine, maybe you're not selling X number of units of the special cream that you make. That's okay. Maybe you send out a message and say, hi, all my clients, you're still beautiful. I know you weren't able to get your cream this month, but you still look good. Something to just bring out your personality and who you are. And I think that's how we not only will survive the business side not only will survive, but we'll be able to survive within ourselves. We'll be able to encourage ourselves, to encourage others, to really bring back some of the personal touch that maybe we were losing. And unfortunately, COVID-19 has brought us to a place where we're really looking at what's most important in life. you know, family, friends, clients, interacting with them, and most of all, your mental health, your ability to be as stress-free as possible. That's your goal, if I can put it that way. That's your goal. That's your key to success. So now's a perfect time to make sure that we align ourselves so we're ready for the next phase, whatever that will bring. And I'm sure it will bring more success. Let me add that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Connor. Oh my God, thank you so much. This was just very, very educational. And I just want to add this. Your comments today could not have been more timely as we try to navigate this crisis. And I believe there is immediate benefit, from the methods and the recommendations that you all have shared with us here today with dealing with anxiety, stress, and managing their businesses. Okay, so what I would ask is whether I could request that you'll share the presentations with us, if that is okay, so that we can share with our clients, so that they could have that information at hand. Once again, I just want to say thank you so much for coming out and to address that topic for us here today, and on behalf of You Business Caribbean and my colleagues, I wish to extend our deepest gratitude for the very insightful and educational presentations today by you, Dr. Connor and Miss Lee. We are indeed thankful for your time and effort and in sharing your and giving guidance on this very sensitive topic. Okay, once again, thank you. And remember, folks, we have our webinar next week. So please join in, sign up. Our topics will be shared via email. So please make sure that you sign in. And again, thank you to everybody and our team at You Business Trust Trinidad and Tobago, making everything happen here for us today. So thanks again, Jonathan and Shedron. Have a good afternoon, people. Thanks you. Bye.
Thank you. Be well.